Hi everybody, my name is Jon Zmikly and I'm a senior lecturer here in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I'm also the assistant director of the Media Innovation Lab, which is where you are right now. I'm here in the historic Old Main building here on Texas State's campus. It was really nice to meet you guys when we talked on Slack and also in the Skype that we had a couple weeks ago. But I figured if I'm going to talk about virtual reality, I might as well come to you virtually. So welcome. You guys will be here in just a few short weeks. Before you guys get here, I wanted to talk a little bit about immersive video, immersive content, how we teach it here at Texas State, and just kind of give you guys a feel of what we'll be talking about when we do get here and how you'll get some hands-on training as well. So feel free to look around as I talk, but I want to bring kind of just to light what is VR and kind of talk about that to start. So virtual reality can be defined in a lot of different ways, but one way that I define it is just a way to, it's a completely simulated or virtual environment that completely encapsulates a viewer. So basically it's when you put a headset on or you watch a 360 video, much like the one that you're watching now, and you're transported to a different place. It takes you from your current environment and brings you to another place, whether that's you put on a headset and suddenly you're on a safari somewhere, or you try on a headset and you're in Rome or something like that. Or if you're just watching a 360 video like you're watching now and you're joining me in the Media Innovation Lab. So it basically transports you to another time and place. And so there are a lot of different examples of this. And really what I like to think of them as is really a range from least immersive to most immersive. Some examples include the Oculus Go or Oculus Rift that you may have seen before. It's Facebook's version of this where you can put the headset on and it's untethered, so there are no cords or anything like that with it. And it really brings you to an environment. It's got pretty good audio as well. Then you have something that's kind of mid-range. Then you have Google Cardboard, which I would consider something like least immersive, where you put your phone inside the cardboard and can look around. Hopefully you've maybe tried one of those before. There are other little small headsets or devices that you can use. This is one by our division of IT. They have a little plastic headset here that you can pop your phone into, put the goggles on and look around with that. So these would be considered least immersive or mid-level immersive. If you look back here, we also have an HTC Vive set up, and I'll show you that here in a second. But this really gives you a range of motion, and you can see here that we have some sensors that you can move around in an environment and have controllers, much like these, that you can actually interact with the content around it. So that would be considered something that's very, very much immersive. And so again, it's a range, and different storytellers use each of these platforms in different ways. So when you talk about VR, there's really two categories. One is a computer-generated environment. And I'll show you an example of that in a second, where you can actually create an environment and allow somebody to walk around and interact with objects that is simulated. Then you have a 360 video, which is recorded with 360 video cameras, much like this one here, which is a Ricoh Theta. You also have this one here, which is a rig of GoPros set up, as you can see them there. You can see there's 6 of them there, stitched together. There's another one over here by Kodak. This is one that you're actually going to be using when you come in here. It's a Samsung Gear 360 with a tripod, light tripod actually. And you're going to be using this technology to videotape some 360 content. So those are the two kind of fields that we're looking at here when we talk about VR. Unity is a program that I use and when I teach this, my virtual reality and 360 video class. It is a software program, it's free, that we can install and create simulated environments. And so I want to show you that now. So if you'll look behind you, or I'm not sure if you have already, but take a look at the screen and I want to show you this example of a immersive environment that a student created in my VR class. So what we do is we're going to put this headset on here, and he created an environment that you can walk around in. Hopefully you can see what I see, and you can teleport to different areas. He created a maze. And so basically you're kind of walking through this maze to try to find objects, and okay, to hit a dead end here. And it does allow you to move around a space to get a sense of it. And also, hopefully at the end, we'll see what I get, if there's anything there. But these pillars are interactable. You can reach out, grab them, move them around, and drop them. And I can get kind of behind it, and so I basically knocked that pillar over. And so, as you can see, this is a pretty immersive environment. He created this from scratch, and there's a lot of code that goes in that where you can create a space, walk around it, and interact with different objects inside of it. So that's a little bit about a computer-generated example of a 360 project. So that is one side of it where you can create an environment. And then, so what we do, mostly what I focus on in my 360 and virtual reality class is 360 video. And so you can see over here I've got a 360 camera. This is the Samsung Gear 360, and this is again what you'll be using when you come here. Pretty easy to use if you just press the record button on the back here and start recording. It's actually what I'm using to record this video right now. And basically, it's a form of virtual reality, also known as spherical video. What happens is you get these two spheres, and as you can see on that camera, there are two lenses. And what happens is when you flatten them, it kind of takes those two shots and stitches them together. All the different spots that are similar, it finds those areas and can stitch it into a flat video that you can edit in Premiere or Final Cut Pro or something like that. So it does require a little bit of knowledge once you get into that stitching, but once you have it stitched, it is a pretty fun process to edit a 360 video, and that's what you guys will be doing when you get here. It's called equirectangular video. It's flattened like a map, so if you imagine a globe, when they flatten it out into a map, there are some inconsistencies and it looks warped. And that's kind of what's going to happen when you're editing, but thankfully Premiere and even Final Cut have some cool add-ons that you can edit and preview your 360 video before you actually edit and render it and upload it to YouTube. But it is a 2-to-1 ratio, and generally viewers can only see, when they put on the headset, they can only see something at a 90-degree angle, what's in the kind of their periphery. So it's important to know where, or guess, where the user's going to look. And that is a big challenge of, I'm sure you guys have been looking around this room a little bit, hopefully you have been, and so it's hard for the narrator or the storyteller to draw your attention, and that can sometimes be a challenge, but it's also an opportunity in this space. So just some quick tips on virtual reality, some things that I've learned, and I will cover this more in depth when you do come, is that the golden rule is ask yourself, does the story really need to be 360? A lot of times people use 360 videos as kind of a novelty, but the novelty does wear off. And so how many time-lapse videos can you see of the same, kind of a scene? So you do have to think about when it's important to use 360 video and maybe when it's not. Another tip would be to set your tripod. When you're filming a video, you want to make sure it's about eye level. If it's too low, it'll make the user, when they put the headset on, feel like they're a child or an insect or an ant or something like that. And when you have it too high, it almost feels unnatural. So generally we stick to the rule of thumb, stick with your tripod at about eye level. If you have multiple cameras, make sure they're all recording. That's kind of what we have here with this GoPro that has 6 different cameras on it. If one of these lenses was not recording at a given time, the whole video would be worthless and it would not be able to be used because it needs all 6 cameras to work. And then that only applies to camera rigs that have multiple videos on them. There is no behind the camera, as you can see, so before I shoot a video like this, I kind of have to make sure everything's cleaned up, or if you do an interview, there is no, okay, you interview that person and I'll be the camera guy behind the camera. That doesn't really work because there is no behind the camera, okay? So making sure cords are out of the way, making sure that the room is set up in a way that allows a user to explore is very important to just keep that in mind. Stationary shots are best. You notice that I'm not moving the camera around or picking it up. That's because when a person puts a headset on, they really feel like they're there and they are the camera. And so if I came over and picked you up, that wouldn't be very natural, would it? And so you do have to be careful about how you set up a tripod and how you set up a camera to make sure that you are thinking of the user first. Narrative audio is usually better than text for storytelling. Sometimes if you have text around the room, placed, they may miss it, especially if it's only up for a few seconds. So if you can talk through, they can usually hear what's going on in the video and they won't miss it. And then last, don't change scenes too quickly when we're editing. We need to prepare the viewer for what's coming up, or kind of guide their eye using nonverbal hand movements and things like that to guide their eye into certain areas. And if I was going to move this to another scene next, I could say, hey, now come on, we're going to go outside. And that would prepare you as a viewer that we're going to move settings. Because it can be pretty jarring if you put a headset on and suddenly there's a lot of cuts. And it's just not the same as flat video is. So those are just a few tips on 360 video, and before we go, because the next module is all about augmented reality, I wanted to address the fact that there is a wine bottle here, and I was going to use this as an illustration to show just all the different apps that are out there in terms of augmented reality, and it's the next thing that we're going to be doing in the next module. So I wanted to show you just this quick little app. It's the 19 Crimes wine company, and if you get the Living Labels app, you can hover over it.
I was banished to Australia for crimes against the crown. They believed my story was over, but it was merely the beginning.
So it kind of gives you this backstory of all these different people who are featured in this project. There's also another one. It's we don't always drink wine in the Innovation Lab. I just we've collected these. There's also a Walking Dead one. So anyway, there are a lot of different pretty cool uses for augmented reality, and that's going to be the very next module right down below this one. So thanks for joining me, and I can't wait to see you guys in just a few short weeks.